Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. We've got another in our interviews with executives of junior mining companies, and that's the appropriate way to refer to Galantas. They are a junior mining company, not a junior exploration, but they have a combination of recently having started the process of getting their project in Ireland into production. And they've got the exploration potential, and they've got quite an interesting business model. What really excites me the most is this is an orogenic gold system. These things can be company makers. And based on the drilling, I think they found one. So I've got Mario Stefano on to talk about his company, Galantas Gold.
Thanks, Allan. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. So big milestone recently. You guys started the process to bring it into production.
Yes. So you were seeing our last news release. We started drilling the first stope, and we expect to start blasting very shortly and getting some of that ore up to the mill. And look, this is a huge, you just alluded to, this is a huge milestone, I think, for Galantas. Obviously, we mined around 30,000 ounces from an open pit, but it's been a long transition from open pit to underground mining, and we now have the team in place from the site management team. We've been able to hire some miners. We're still looking for some more miners, but things are finally all starting to come together, and we're really going to be the only gold producer in Ireland in over 1,000 years. There's a huge history of this precious metal concept from, I'm sure you know, the pot of gold and the whole concept of Irish luck. But there hasn't really been any gold mine. You can go to the museum in Dublin, for example, and there's lots of gold artifacts, but there hasn't been any mining for gold, and we're going to be the first ones. And I think that's going to really put us on the map. And people always ask me, is Irish gold more valuable? Or someone's asked, is Irish gold more valuable? I think it is, right? Because there's no other gold mine that's going to be in production. Obviously, hopefully there'll be some after us, and hopefully we'll continue to grow our production. But we're really paving the way for gold mining in Northern Ireland and on the island.
Well, I've only ever talked about one other Irish company. It was a huge success, and now you beat them to the punch of getting into production.
Yeah, and again, I think we've gone through this in the past. There was a completely different view on strategy between Galantas and GAL.V. And also, I've been with the company for about a year as CEO. But prior to that, Galantas was really focused on getting the asset in production, and drilling was viewed as a secondary priority, where GAL.V. focused on drilling, and now they're trying to get the asset in production. But now that we're in production, you would have seen some of the great drill results, obviously, we've been able to hit recently. But in addition to that, we're now got that dual focus of getting ourselves into production, producing. Now we're entering into the production phase, and continuing to drill, because I still think this is one of the best exploration stories I've been able to find, because we've been hitting, and you've mentioned this, the jewelry box concept, but we've been hitting some really great holes at the dilation zones. And we'll continue to have some drill results coming out as we drill the Kearney vein, but we're starting to really get a handle on where these dilation zones may be. And as we develop to the next level, we're hoping to open up some additional drill bays so we can start targeting, for example, some of the southern part of the Kearney vein, where we think there's additional dilation zones. So I'm pretty excited what we're going to find here from an exploration perspective. And remember, this is one vein. The last vein, or last hole we drilled at the Joshua vein, which is about 500 meters to the west of the Kearney vein, we drilled that 13 meters at 17 grams. So we know we got a high grade system here.
Well, and not only have you been hitting, but recently you've been hitting consistently. And in these orogenic systems, some of them have billion-dollar plus valuations over in Newfoundland, 100 million and more. You've got the same kind of rock. But what sets you apart from everybody else in the world looking for these kind of deposits is that you guys can go underground. and you can see what the rocks look like. You don't have to look at little tubes of rock coming out of the core. You get to see the rock faces, and you get to, that helps your predictability to hit the dilation zones,
Exactly.
Mario.
Exactly. And it was because we were able to go underground that we started to understand these dilation zones. There were hints of it from some of the channel sampling at surface, as well as some of the open pit mine, but we really didn't understand it until we got underground. And now we've been hitting these dilation zones. You're exactly right. And I think the other thing that's quite interesting about Galantas, and obviously I'm not a geologist, but we get these great grades, but we don't have any VG. And a lot of the gold is within the sulfides. And so we get a good sense of when we get some good holes. Obviously, the assay is always going to be the key here, but the gold is very consistent. So we don't get the huge spikes where, a couple of meters is carried from a couple of specks of gold. This is very consistent grades when we hit. And I think that's going to be very, very helpful when you're mining underground.
Well, and what you're describing there is sort of the top of an orogenic system. That's what they mined at Fosterville for 20 years before they got deeper, and they started finding those dilation zones. Folks that aren't geologists, dilation zones are where the rock is able to open up and you can get those high-grade fluids in there. Now, what often happens as you get deeper in the system, you get out of the fine gold element and you get into the more coarse gold element, and that's what you call a jewelry box.
Exactly. It's going to be really interesting. I've been talking to some people about the geology in this area, because I'm always trying to learn, as we all should. And, you mentioned already a little bit earlier, and for whatever reason, we appear to be deeper in the system than Dalradian, because Dalradian does have copper. And I was asking, why do they have copper and we don't? And I think they're a little bit higher up in the system. So, there is real possibility here that we could find these higher grade jewelry boxes, as you're referring to them, a little bit quicker as we continue to drill deeper, because, really the deepest hole at the Kearney vein is 300 meters, and at Joshua is about 200 meters. So we got some really shallow drill holes here, but some great grades. And as we continue to drill deeper, I'm hopeful that we're going to continue to see some better grades.
Another interesting thing about these orogenic systems is that as you're close to surface, you get a lot of brecciation, so the rocks get all broken up. And but as you get deeper, they tend to consolidate into hard rock, and that's where the grades often go through the roof. And you've seen that kind of a situation in your drilling.
Yes, 100%. So you look at some of the core closer to surface, you get more of the brecciated, and it's almost like crushed clay, where you get this black clay. And when we see the black clay, we actually know we got some pretty good grades in there. But as we get a little bit deeper, we see some of the black clay, but now we're seeing some more of the quartz veining and less brecciated rocks. So, as we get deeper into the system, we fully expect as you referred to, you're going to get less brecciated and more quartz vein system.
Well, and I hope it's not lost on people that these orogenic systems can be company makers. Let's face it, one of your advisors ran Kirkland Lake, and Kirkland Lake, when they started mining the Swan Zone, it turned into a cash machine that made them one of the best performing mining companies, and ultimately taken over. And you have him as an advisor to sort of help you walk your way through this.
Yeah, as you met, Tony and I, obviously I was Chief Financial Officer of Lakeshore Gold under Tony McCooch, and, I respect him tremendously. And, when I left Lakeshore, it was really to try something different. I've been CFO for a number of years, and I wanted to run a company, and I really like exploration, and I really like building something, and this sort of fit exactly what I was looking for. But Tony worked with me on a number of projects since I left Lakeshore, and I think Tony's really going to like what he sees here, and I think he does like what he sees here. But it's not just Tony. We got some great advisors from John Arthurs, who many consider one of the best geos on Dalradian rocks. We got Tim Warman as well, who worked in Northern Ireland for Dalradian as president. We got Ernie Mass as well. So we got a great team, and we got a great board, and the management team. And look, we're all advisors, even myself in many respects. I'm not, I'm not the one underground. I'm not the one that's blasting the stopes. So really, it's the team on the ground that does the real work. I got to give all the credit to the team on the ground. I'm really a spokesperson. I say that many times, but it's the team on the ground. I help with the strategy at the end of the day and help give direction. But it's those guys that are executing the strategy. And I got to tell you, they've done a great job. It's not easy. And it's not easy building a mine on a shoestring budget. And so we've been trying to keep the capital structure as tight as we possibly can, so that, as we start to drill, as we start to get production out, there's going to be a lot of leverage to success here for current shareholders. And that's really been our strategy here, so that we can drill and we can produce gold with a lot of leverage to success here. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Speaking of your shares, you don't have a lot of stock out. You also have some high profile investors in your stock. Michael Gentili, I just watched an interview the other day with him talking about guys. Eric Sprott's a big shareholder, and Eric loves these orogenic systems because, let's face it, Kirkland Lake made him a lot of money. He's kind of gone all in Newfoundland. But what a lot of people don't realize is the same rocks that are in Newfoundland in the past were connected to Ireland. So you're talking about the same story as what they're seeing in Newfoundland. But again, I got to emphasize that you guys can see underground. You don't have to poke holes in there. And that is a huge advantage for predictability and where to drill and what to look for.
Exactly. And as you said, we got great shareholders, from Eric Sprott to Mike Gentile to Mel Court. These guys have been extraordinarily supportive of the company, and I expect them to continue to be supportive of the company. Everyone recognizes what the potential here is, and they're very supportive of our strategy to drill, to get in production, try and keep the capital structure as tight as possible. But as you said, because we're able to go underground and see some of these fault zones, that really helps. And that's one of the reasons why we had to delay things a little bit. A couple of news releases earlier, we wanted to make sure that when we were blasting, because of a fault zone we saw that wasn't previously mapped, we want to make sure that when we're blasting, all this was properly concreted so that we wouldn't cause any mine stability issues. And our view was better to do it now than risk the mine 6 months or a year down the road, or at least one of these zones or levels. So we took our time, because we have the luxury of taking our time because of our supportive shareholders. But we're finding these potential faults, which lead to these dilation zones where we're going to see some of these higher grades. And that makes me really excited, because Sarah, our chief geologist, has been great at hitting these dilation zones. And she's able now to predict where she's starting to see some more to the south. And keep in mind, this deposit is open to depth and down plunge, because we now understand where we think we're going to be able to find some gold in the system here. Is all based on the communal member units, which is just the rock types. And that wasn't really well understood in the past by Rio Tinto when they worked this area in the 80s. One of the areas to the north of the Kearney vein, they drilled some shallow holes, but they didn't get deep enough to hit the system. But we now understand where you got to drill to hit the system. This is going to be really important as we continue to explore outside of our current known veins.
Well, and you've already exhibited that that's what you're doing. You've had great predictability on your hitting high grade near surface.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we're still shallow drilling, right? Let's keep this in mind. This is still 300 meters to Kearney and 200 at Joshua. So, and we're probably going to find more of these kind of veins or veinlets as we drill and develop between Joshua and Kearney, because we've already shown the B lens, the C lens. So we got multiple of these lenses starting to develop. Plus, we got the Kestrel vein. There's only a few holes in between the Kearney and the Joshua vein of a new vein that was drilled in the past. So as we start to get to some of these areas, we're going to find more of these veins. Some will be higher grade. Hopefully all of them will be much higher grade than what we're currently seeing, but but reality is some will be higher grade, some will be lower grade.
Can't sneeze at what you've already
Exactly.
found,
Exactly.
17 meters of over a half an
exactly.
ounce per ton, and nothing wrong with
That's
that.
great. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But as we continue to find more of these veins, we're going to be building, I hope here, a multi-million ounce deposit, and one that we're going to be able to really capitalize on and create great wealth for our shareholders.
And let's get on to that quickly. You've kind of alluded to that a couple of times. The business plan is quite, puts you in a unique category. I mean, there's not many small companies that are mining gold at a high margin and then using that to keep the truth machine, the drilling going to find a potential swan zone or two or three. That makes a heck of a combination because it keeps your share structure nice and tight.
Exactly. And that's really what our strategy was, to try and leverage the success of the production, the drilling, by keeping the share structure tight. We still have $7 million worth of warrants that are in the money as we speak. They expire in May of next year. So we're not that far along now, less than a year away. And these warrants would add, significant capital to the treasury. And my goal is always to try and get these warrants exercised before we issue additional capital, because, the tighter we keep the share structure, I think the better it is for us.
Absolutely. I know that's another thing that, I look around and I see a lot of companies with 100, 200, 300 million shares not looking at orogenic discoveries. And you guys have really done a great job to keep that share structure tight, and will ultimately, if you reach your goals, will reward all the shareholders.
Exactly. And, let's not forget, you brought up, very early in this interview, Dalradian, when they got sold, had 6 million ounces at 13 grams. We know there's a lot more ounces there because they were continuing to drill. And we're only 20 kilometers away from Dalradian, so we're already in a world-class district, and we're just getting started here. So the more we drill, I think the more the market's going to recognize that we're in a world-class district here.
Well, I certainly have recognized it early, as I did with Dalradian. I started covering at 25 cents, and they ended up getting bought out for, like you said, close to $500 million. So I'm quite overwhelmed with the quality of the drilling that you guys have been able to report, and the potential to find more of those jewelry boxes that look like a swan zone in your future.
Exactly. No, I'm pretty excited as well. And before we go there, I think I should mention, the background's a little bit different than you would have typically seen, but I'm in San Diego. It was a place, when the US market crashed, I saw a lot of value in the real estate in San Diego. So I bought a great place right in the heart of downtown San Diego. So when you see value, which I think Galantas offers tremendous value, you got to capitalize on it, because things move pretty quickly when they move up. But the reason I mention it right now is because in the next couple of days, Comic-Con starts. So you might be hearing some background noise. It's all the people getting ready for this Comic-Con show, and people love PDAC and all people that come down to Toronto. But there's got to be at least 100,000 plus people that come to San Diego, and it's not just a convention center. I mean, you can't walk the streets here with everyone in costumes and all the celebrities walking around in costume. It's a great thing to see. So if anyone ever gets a chance to come down to San Diego during Comic-Con, I put it at top of your list. It's tremendous fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I used to collect comic books when I was young, and I still have some of them from back then. So I hope this turns into one of those comic books that you buy on the cheap and you sell when everybody realizes it's a special one.
Exactly. And I think that's a great analogy. I'm all working towards that. I think Galantas is going to be a good one.
Awesome, Mario. Thanks a lot for your time. Let me wrap it up, and then we'll have a quick chat at the other end.
All right, sounds good.
So there you go, folks. I believe that Galantas is what I call a home run in the making, and I don't think there's a lot of risk that won't happen. The reason I can say that with confidence is because you look at the drilling that they've done, and they've hit a lot of high-grade gold near surface. Now they're able to target deeper. And when you get into the vertical element of an orogenic gold system, that's when things can get really exciting, because that's what made Kirkland Lake, when the Swan Zone was found and brought into production, it's a cash machine. And these guys are looking for those kind of cash machines, and all indications are that they should be able to find those as they get deeper. So as always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors, do your homework, check out the company's website and their corporate presentations. You'll see tons of information about what they've already found. They also have a video vault, and yours truly and Mario, he takes after the handsome part, but I do my best as well. So check out all that. You'll be able to do some good due diligence, and this is one that you want to do that on if you're interested in gold. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.